A very good evening all. I am Aditi Lamba with the Wednesday night edition of South Asian News, Vision of Asia. We are coming to you from our studio in New York City. Welcome to the show. Let's begin by taking a look at the coronavirus pandemic. Globally, we are looking at 64.2 million cases of the coronavirus with nearly 1.5 million deaths. In the United States, we are nearing 14 million cases and the death toll from COVID-19 in the US has now surpassed 273,000. This indeed is quite a sobering number. CDC's director, Dr. Robert Redfield, has now warned that the next few months are going to be rough as the number of COVID-19 spikes across the country. He also stressed on the impact of mitigation strategies such as mask wearing, social distancing, and good hand hygiene, along with weekly screenings and contact tracing. The CDC also has recommended people to postpone travel and stay at home over the upcoming holiday season to keep themselves and their families safe. This is happening while the US hit record number of cases and deaths in a single day yesterday, reporting more than 2,624 deaths. On vaccine today, US health experts welcomed British emergency approval of Pfizer Inc.'s COVID-19 vaccine, a sign that the US regulators may soon follow suit. In politics, Republicans and Democrats in Congress remain unable to reach an agreement on a fresh relief bill for the pandemic hit U.S. economy, with top Republicans supporting what Senate's top Democrats dismissed as inadequate partisan proposal. Adding to this, the two parties face a December 11th deadline to pass a $1.4 trillion budget or risk a shutdown of the government as the COVID-19 crisis worsens across the nation. And 49 days till inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden on January 20th, President Donald Trump has still yet to concede while President-elect continues his transition process, announcing nominees for key positions. More on that and the path moving forward is tonight on the show, along with coronavirus pandemic updates and more. Here are the headlines. Veteran journalist Rohit Vyas on politics of presidential transition process, New Jersey. Seva Diwali hosts drive-through food donation benefiting food pantries, New Jersey. Dr. Janish Kothari urges all to wear a mask, COVID-19 updates, Pennsylvania. Time for a quick break on Vision of Asia, Voice of the Community. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Aditi Lamba and this is Vision of Asia, Wednesday night episode of South Asian News. On U.S. politics and the ongoing presidential transition process, we spoke with ITV Gold's senior political commentator and veteran journalist, Mr. Rohit Vyas. President Donald Trump has hinted that he may be ready to move on to planning another run for the U.S. presidency in 2021 as President-elect Joe Biden is preparing to confront the raging pandemic that will likely be his first major challenge in the office. The president-elect has promised to provide more resources to fight the healthcare crisis after he is inaugurated on January 20th, and today spoke with workers and business owners about how the coronavirus has affected them. President Trump has refused to concede, however, and his lawyers continue to file legal challenges alleging electoral fraud without providing evidence. State and federal election officials have repeatedly now said that there is no such evidence. Meanwhile, the Congress again is unable to reach a deal for the new COVID-19 stimulus bill. So how does this impact all of us? We speak again with Rohit Vyas on this and much more. Here is Mr. Rohit Vyas. Do you think we will see kind of an outrage or protest from these Republicans who voted for President Donald Trump in the next year, the year after, just like we saw a movement against President Donald Trump in 2016, 2017, 2018?
Yeah, that's a possibility. There can be. I mean, he did get 72 million votes.
Right.
And he does have his base. He does have his followers. And I think no one is more cognizant of that fact than the Republican Party itself, because they had tried to resist him in the beginning and then just gave up because they knew they couldn't. He had this very dominant personality, and he has changed the Republican Party entirely to make it in his own mold. And so, yes, there will be, you can expect, definitely, if things don't go the way the conservatives and the extreme conservatives believe it should, you can expect absolutely a lot of pushback from them, and maybe some protests around the country, So there will be, I expect a lot of that. But I think Joe Biden, the unique quality about him in particular, is he is able to reach across the aisle to everyone. He is able to appeal to a wide array of personalities, and can handle situations like this better than anybody else.
I only have two questions left here for you, Mr. Vyas. The first one, I have to ask you about the Georgia elections. President Donald Trump and Vice President Pence are supposed to actually campaign in Georgia this week, if the news is right that I'm getting. How are you looking at this contentious race of the Senate? What should we, anticipate in all of this or expect?
You anticipate a lot of campaigning by both sides. It's a critical election for both parties. The Republicans don't want to lose their edge in the Senate because that's where they have their, their value, and they're able to get things done, and they have the muscle power. If they lose that, then the Democrats will be able to push through legislation very, very quickly and effectively under Joe Biden. And so this is a critical race for both sides. I'm not surprised to hear that Trump and Pence are going to go campaign there. They would be if I were in their shoes and I was in the Republican Party. That's what I would do. The same thing if I were in the shoes of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. If I were in the Democratic Party, I would do it for that party as well. I'd be out there campaigning for the Democratic Party candidates. As you can tell, I'm independent, so it doesn't really matter to me. But from a political point of view, from an analyst point of view, it is so critical that I expect a lot of campaigning, a lot of public rallies to take place. Yep.
Georgia has been politicized so much this year. Do you think Georgia politics itself will change?
It is changing. It's changing very much. It's been a traditionally conservative state, conservative leaning, Republican leaning. We could see some big changes now, just as the rest of the country is going through big changes. It also has been getting a whole population shift, as has Arizona, as has Nevada. A lot of people from California moving to those states. A lot of people from the East Coast, from the northern states, have moved into Georgia. A lot of people from the West Coast also moving into Georgia. So its demographic makeup has been changing dramatically as well. So yes, there can be some big changes coming up in that state. We'll see first with these runoff elections for the 2 Senate seats, January 5th. And that will then tell us what the future holds. But yeah, I expect a state like Georgia, with the busiest airport in the world, probably one of the busiest in the world, Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, definitely changes will be coming.
Yes, definitely. Georgia has been so far so interesting this cycle. You almost knew what the election result was going to be, and it just flipped. And it's very, very interesting. My final question to you has to be, there are about 50 days left until Inauguration Day. I want your predictions about what is going to happen in terms of President-elect Joe Biden and also President Donald Trump.
My prediction is President Donald Trump will, just be over with his presidency. He probably will hold an event on Inauguration Day to make an announcement, as we've been hearing. I don't expect a major resistance to the new president coming in. I don't think President Trump would go that far. I think he will. He knows he can go back home comfortably. He's certainly well off personally, even though we've heard a lot of scandals about his finances and things. But he's well off personally. He'll go away for a while, but he's not going to go away entirely. He will be back. He's going to make sure that his presence is felt. I expect him to be continuing to do a lot of tweeting personally. I expect him to be making a lot of personal appearances at political rallies, and I expect him to tighten his control further over the Republican Party. So anything the Republicans do going forward the next 4 years, Donald Trump is going to have a hand in it. Unless he just gets bored and throws up his hands and says, I'm done with politics, which I don't think will happen. I think he will continue.
And what about in terms of President-elect Joe Biden?
Joe Biden is going to go ahead. He'll plod along with his agenda. He's very focused on what he wants to do. His first priority is going to be the economy, getting rid of COVID-19, making sure the vaccination distribution is smooth and that every American is vaccinated. And then he's also going to be immediately setting out, by the way, not just immigration and local issues, he will be setting out to repair U.S. relations on the international stage. And that is extremely critical. One of the big jobs he has now is to deal with Iran especially in the aftermath of the assassination of their top nuclear scientists. It complicates matters for Joe Biden on the international stage. So he's going to have a lot of work cut out for him. He's going to be very busy internationally, very busy domestically, but he is extremely focused. Yeah. He knows what he wants to do. He's the man with the experience, over 42 years of experience in politics, in world affairs, in running things. He's extremely focused and intelligent. I expect it to be a very fruitful 4 years of the Biden administration.
As coronavirus cases surge, national and local organizations as well as nonprofits are shining light on the growing problem of food insecurity in this country and the stress on the food pantries. A report suggests that about 1 in 6 Americans are food deprived as a result of growing unemployment and disruptions in the food supply chain. This has impacted communities of colors and other minorities disproportionately who are currently suffering to provide food for themselves and their families. And the number of people being helped by food pantries and food banks nationwide has now swelled as the pandemic has spiked heading into the holiday season. So to help combat hunger and provide dignity to all, Seva Diwali hosted a drive-through food donation event collecting 70,000 pounds of groceries for the Middlesex County College in New Jersey. Several Hindu organizations also collaborated with Diwali Seva in their initiative to serve humanity by providing food. Here is the story.
सेवाधर्मो परमगहनो योगिनामप्यगम्यः। हिंदू संस्कृति में ही सेवा बुनियाद के रूप में है। आज इस दूर देश में भी हिंदू स्वयंसेवक संघ के माध्यम से एडिसन एरिया में सेवा दिवाली का जो प्रतिवर्ष कार्यक्रम होता है उसमें लोगों को उपयोगी होने के लिए ग्रोसरी का कलेक्शन किया गया। तकरीबन 70,000 पाउंड ये ग्रोसरी आज मिडलसेक्स काउंटी को हिंदू स्वयंसेवक संघ एडिसन की ओर से हैंडओवर किया जा रहा है। तो सेवा के इस कार्य के लिए बहुत बहुत सबको खूब खूब धन्यवाद, सबको बधाई।
नमस्ते, we are here to celebrate the Seva Diwali food drive. There are many karyakartas who have come here to donate the food. We have collected close to 3,000-4,000 pounds of food or maybe more. So all the karyakartas, they have collected the food at their own places, and today it is a drive-through, they are just driving here due to COVID, and all the food is put here, and now the food is will be given to the Middlesex County College pantry, so that pantry will receive all this food from this drive today.
Hi, my name is Tarun. I am one of the volunteers of Seva Diwali, and as you can see, it has been an immense success, and we are donating this to Middlesex County College food pantry. And just wanted to update that as of today in New Jersey alone, we have collected 70,000 pounds of food.
My name is Mohan Devarakonda, part of HSS. We are again celebrating the Seva Diwali. Diwali is a time of celebration and also recognition of prosperity and sharing with that. The true prosperity is when we can share, and that's exactly what is happening here. All the families here have volunteered to donate food to Middlesex County College pantry. And this is the occasion where we are sharing not just with our community and beyond our local communities.
My name is Amanda Lyons, and I work at Middlesex County College. I'm the Basic Needs Coordinator, and I manage the food pantry. And this very, very generous donation is coming at a great time because a lot of our students have been facing food insecurity since the pandemic, and our supplies are starting to run low. So this is a huge relief and a very generous gift, and we are so, so grateful.
Time for a short break. Stay with Vision of Asia, voice of the community. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. This is Vision of Asia, the South Asian news segment, and I am Aditi Lamba. Let's now take a look at the coronavirus pandemic's updates and measures. The nation is setting record numbers of hospitalizations and deaths as cases surge. Yesterday, we reported another 2,624 deaths, the fifth highest daily total on record, and hospitalizations approach 100,000. This has overwhelmed the healthcare system and has also exhausted medical professionals as well. On vaccine, Britain has given an emergency use approval to the vaccine developed by Pfizer Inc. and German partner BioNTech and has become the first country to do so. The United Kingdom has now accelerated its timeline and will give the first shots of the vaccine to the most vulnerable people next week. On that, in the country here, an FDA panel of outside advisors will meet December 10th to discuss whether to recommend emergency use authorization of the Pfizer vaccine. Meanwhile, doctors are again urging people to take COVID-19 seriously and practice CDC guidelines, especially on wearing a mask. So where do we go from here, and how will the upcoming holiday season impact COVID-19 spread? We spoke with Dr. Janesh Kothari. Here is a segment of our conversation with Dr. Janesh Kothari. Let's start by looking at some numbers that are coming in today. We're looking at 13.8 million cases in the United States with at least 272,000 deaths. That number was 271 as this day began. It's now already gone to 272,000. My question to you is, how are you processing these numbers right now?
So I'm not sure when you checked your numbers, but right before I got on, I just did a most up-to-date count. And I have that the United States has about 14.2 million total cases with about 279,000 deaths.
Oh, wow.
And to put this into a little bit of a perspective, the entire world up until this point, as opposed when I recently just checked, we've had about a total of 65 million cases and about 1.5 million deaths. So if you do some basic math, the United States has about 21% of the entire world's total cases and nearly about 20% of the world's deaths. So to answer your question, I'm very concerned about these numbers, and I think that when we talked about this previously, when this whole thing began, I think that there's just going to be a continual rise until we figure out a way to reconcile all the mistakes that we've made up until this point and learn from these things.
There is a prediction that there might be 20 million cases total in the United States by January 20th, which is President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration day. Do you agree with that statement? Do you see the number going that much?
I mean, since being on the front lines in the beginning,
Right.
I've seen the trajectory of cases, and every month the cases have risen. And up until very recently, we've started hitting all these peaks and all these record-breaking numbers that we haven't seen before. And it doesn't seem to be slowing down at this point. If anything, it seems to be picking up and speeding up. And that could potentially have a number of reasons why that's happening. And I think with the winter months and stuff coming up, it's just a matter of time before we start seeing cases in the 3,000, potentially even 4,000 a day. That's what a lot of the models that I've come across have predicted.
These are deaths that you're talking about.
Deaths daily.
Wow, that is very, very, very terrifying. When you're looking at these cases, Dr. Kothari, they're surging across the nation, but we're seeing a lot of activity in the Midwest. Why is this happening right now with that region? And when you look at the north here, the tri-state and other states, surrounding it, do you see that problem coming towards us as the winter months, as we go into winter months?
Well, yes. I think that we have to start looking at first why cases are rising, So in the beginning, we started to see somewhat of a kind of a steady number of cases in a day, steady deaths, and then we started seeing this peak. And if you kind of align that with the events that were occurring in the economy, we started reopening the economy. People started getting COVID fatigue. They started shifting outdoor to indoor seating. Schools started opening. Colleges started opening. And I just think overall there's this false sense of security due to massive misinformation. So a lot of these things have, initially started out in the periphery where a lot of, foreign travelers were coming into the coastal sides, and then they started making their way into the middle. And then, people that were living there, they started getting affected. And on top of that, that's being compounded by all the stuff that the economy has tried to do to try to get back to some form of normalcy. So I think there's a multifactorial role that has been played into why cases have started to spike.
But we're looking at months and months of a push for CDC guidelines, Dr. Kothari. We're looking at months and months of people screaming to wear the mask. what do we do at this point? Why can't we contain it still with these guidelines?
People are humans, you know, they're tired. There's a term going around called pandemic fatigue. You know, how long can you keep somebody caged? You know, how long can they sit within their home? And, you know, these are very human emotions. And then after a certain point, people are, like I mentioned, having this misinformation. There's information out there that's saying masks don't work and this is a hoax, and, you know, all this stuff that's been going on. And some people are easily impressionable, and they're impressionable because they're scared, and that's a normal human response. So I think until we start to educate people and start to continuously educate them, and those people that are willing to become educated, they have to step up and educate those people around them within their communities, within their own homes, and just try to do everything within their power. Until we get a mass spread of information that's accurate, we're not going to be able to kind of put a cap on this.
You know, let me ask you something. As a medical professional, what is needed again for the government or several states to shut down? There are some stay-at-home orders already released and announced in California. My question to you is, do you see the need of that happening in several states as we move again into the winter months?
Well, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that we've done so far is that we haven't had a national mandated government plan. You know, I understand why it was done this way. Most our national government doesn't intervene on a state level, and they've given the states their own liberties to kind of decide what's best for their particular state, particular counties, and all that kind of stuff. So what that's led to is a uncoordinated response. You know, some states had peaks while other states had like kind of plateaus. So when you're not coordinating that, you're going to get a varying response. So I think that was one of the biggest things that we could have done, is to try to coordinate that response.
You know, a lot of these governors are still not putting a mask mandate. My question to you is, after talking so much about the importance of wearing it, how dangerous could this get if people don't wear masks?
We've already started to see the rise, and there are many states that do have mask mandates. You know, if people start lifting these mandates amongst other mandates and other social gathering protocols, there's no way that this goes out. Like when we talked about this early on, we just said that you can't stop this virus from spreading until we find a cure or a vaccine or something along those lines. So until then, the virus is going to be prevalent. It's going to be in the air. It's going to be within people. So until we can find a way to eradicate that, there's no way to prevent it from spreading and spreading astronomically. We have to do certain things to sort of put a Band-Aid on, to put gauze on the hemorrhaging, to slow it down until people much smarter than me, people much smarter than most people out there, people that are experts and professionals in the field that have dedicated their lives to this stuff, until they come up with a plan.
Yes,
we have to do our part.
That's so true. I hope people are listening to you and just following that. Well, that is up for the show for the night. Please send us your suggestions and get your voices and organizations on our show. Email us on events@itvgold.com or follow us on Facebook @itvgold. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for free access to many of our popular shows. Thank you for joining us tonight from Queens, New York. This is Vision of Asia, and I am Aditi Lamba. Take care and be well.